For a show that is aggressively resistant to any kind of critical analysis, Seth MacFarlane's debut vehicle has sure had quite a lot said about it. Now a seemingly unkillable institution, Family Guy never had the comedy nerd appeal of The Simpsons or attracted the satirical controversy of South Park, and yet, in the year of our Lord 2026, it's somehow the one that's the most popular amongst a younger generation. How has it survived? Was it ever actually good? And would society be better if we Alex Sulkin live on Twitch? All this and more on Family... Okay, we don't really have a name yet. But we're gonna be watching Family Guy episodes. Okay? Cool.
Well, welcome to Aditya and James's Family Guy Rewatch podcast.
That's the name?
I guess.
Okay. I don't think we need
any sort of name. I don't think they need names. These names
I don't think so either. Just fuck it. Just put it out there.
Exactly. Nobody's paying attention yet. I will name something when it has juice. You don't name a baby if it's born without blood. And you can quote me on that.
That's true. That's very good. That's very good. You need it to at least have, 5K Instagram followers to name your child.
That's right. That's right. The ultrasound needs to have 11,000 likes or that thing's going into the toilet.
Into the toilet. Into the prom night dumpster.
Prom night dumpster. So we wanted to start out by not doing some big historical retrospective thing, but start out with just kind of a nice conversation about our favorite episodes of Family Guy. Aditya picked one, and I picked one, and I think we should start with yours, because yours might be the best episode of Family Guy ever made.
Yeah, I do think it's up there. I personal favorite, it maybe is my personal favorite. I think I chose it less because of that, though, and more because where I feel like, and we'll have more episodes where we go more into specific eras, but I think what it represents, and historically, in terms specifically of like people that are the same age as you and I, and who consumed it at a very specific period of time, and who are the age we currently are and seeing what Family Guy is. I think PTV from season 4, which was the first season that they came back after their second cancellation. Right. So it was their second cancellation, and they came back, and then they've never gone off the air ever since. So this was, in a lot of ways, like kind of their triumphant, like, how you kept doubting us motherfuckers, and we're back. David Zucker, who co-ran the show with Seth MacFarlane in the very beginning, and was like credited as being the guy who was more pushing for traditional structure, so to speak, is now gone. It's just Seth until he leaves in a few years. And so I think that this episode is very beloved, I think rightfully so, but it was also very representative of the show at its like commercial and cultural peak, and it was exactly the purest distillation of Seth MacFarlane's vision of what of creativity could be.
Yeah, dude. I think it's a great episode. It blends a lot of different elements that are so strong about the show together. I think even like the first section of the show, like subverting the traditional intro, doing like a cold open with Osama bin Laden and Stewie, and then going right into some long extended Naked Gun intro with the credits over that instead of like the song. It's just kind of a real like punch in the face of like, we're not like The Simpsons. That's kind of like the only comparison really at that time. It's like, it's not your daddy's cartoon in a way. And I think this episode is so powerful because of what, even just starting at the beginning, the episode starts with Osama bin Laden, I assume. I don't think they really say bin Laden, but it is.
But it's, and they've used that exact voice and character type for bin Laden, like cutaways in the past and after, so.
It's like he's trying to record like a threatening, I don't know what the genre of video, a terrorist video? Is that the name of it? Terrorist video in the hood? It's like pranks in the hood.
Terrorist gone sexual.
Yeah, exactly. Never mind. But I think like
Hey,
when I was
Step
watching
Bro, I'm
it,
stuck in a cave.
I was gonna do that, but I didn't say that. I was gonna go with the Step Bro thing. That's so funny. But like the way that it introduces the episode so improvisationally, and it feels so off the cuff, I was like, this is like the seed that grows into Rick and Morty. Like this is like so foundational. And when you watch other shows, like anything from like The Simpsons sphere, you don't get those moments like that. And even South Park, you don't get those moments like that. Like all the big American cartoons that were coming out in that era, that are geared for adults more specifically, like kids, I don't even know what to say, but I just thought, I was like, that is so awesome. It's like a new flavor. It's like when the first comedian discovered crowd work. It's just like, oh, this is like a new chapter. It's a new type of material you can paint on the canvas with. And I think that in the episode that I picked, there's a moment that, and they're directly connected, where they just do that, like Seth just doing things in like a conversational tone that feels like, it's like he's talking to himself, but he's being improvisational, and it's like that's exactly what Rick and Morty is. It's a guy improvising with himself, doing two different voices. Used to be, now it's two separate guys who do a great job.
Yeah.
But I think that is such a thing. It's just such a, we're doing things different, and like you said, when is Zuckerberg left
David
the show?
Zucker.
Left the show with the structural notes. I mean, you can just tell from like the first couple seasons prior to the cancellations, and then it's like, this episode is like, like the gutter guards are off the bowling alley. Anything can happen.
Yeah, it is really interesting because I think what you're speaking towards in terms of it being distinct from the two big adult animation comedies of the 90s that came before Family Guy meetings, The Simpsons and South Park, was that The Simpsons, I think, is very clearly riffing on 50 years of the American sitcom, right? Like, they're kind of the platonic ideal. They're the best family sitcom of all time, right? Mm-hmm. And they exist in that genre. South Park it's like a whole other thing. It's a satire. Like, it's very clearly taking... But structurally, that brings with it specific caveats. Whereas Family Guy, I think... its big innovation, so to speak, or maybe more, it's just like a disregard for tradition, is that they don't care about story at all. That's not the point of this show. It's just, and it's something that when I've read people trying to write criticism about it, like TV reviewers or whatever, a lot of them will run up against the thing of saying like, it's really difficult to talk about this episode of TV because all I can really say is what jokes worked and what jokes didn't, because they're just throwing things at a wall. And I think when you get to the stronger ones is when they are kind of unified by a theme. And in this instance, it's unified by the theme of being annoyed at censorship, about references to television, specifically like specific eras of television. And those are clearly topics that the writer's room and Seth in particular care a lot about. Like, it's very obvious that this is something that they're really invested in, and so they're able to generate a lot more material about it because it is something that they're actually passionate about. And I think when we get on further to the show or talk about other episodes where we're talking about when they're faltering or when their inevitable decline or whatever, I think a lot of it can be pointed to, like, even in episodes previous, like, of this same era, I think the bad ones are because they don't, like, this topic, it doesn't matter, you know? Like, this isn't a show that will ever really be able to fully pull off, like, the treacle-cutting moral of the episode, the, like, the genuine emotional beats, I think, because you can tell they don't care about that. You can tell that that's just a stab at being more conventional, which is not what the DNA of the show is. But then also, if you're writing a story that doesn't mean anything to you, then it's going to be really difficult to not seem very schizophrenic and haphazard in your joke construction and, you know, plot delivery, so to speak.
So many Family Guy episodes start in one place, and then at the end of the episode you go, that's the show where Stewie tries to kill Lois, but that's not what you're getting for the first 7 minutes of the show. Almost like it has, I don't know, I think about books and how books have led to television, and television is our new books. Like, people don't read anything, but they'll watch The Sopranos, and The Sopranos is such like an in-depth like tapestry of like characters and story that it can make you feel like you've read something because it has that much depth. And Family Guy, it doesn't, like, television's the way that books towards the end of the 90s became much more like self-referential and much more, you have authors like, I don't want to say like David Foster Wallace because he was kind of standing apart from it, but there's a lot of books like, I don't even really have a great example of the types of things, but like they would either go earnest or they would go completely ambivalent. And I see Family Guy, if television is the extension beyond where books had gone, it went through the same development. I mean, you already had shows on the air like The Sopranos. You already had The Wire. You had stuff like, even something like Dallas. Like, Dallas was a soap opera, but it was like, it was riffing on the soap opera. Let's put a lot of money and let's make it like a high prestige version of it. And I think that the way that Family Guy bucks those traditions is not only its biggest strength, but actually becomes its biggest weakness. Like you said, with the emotional moments, they can't hit it. It almost never hits. Brian is killed, and it's like...
And you're like,
He'll be back. Like, Brian, like... And it's like, like any type of earnestness that they go for in any specific scene or episode with any certain character, it's like, well, the next episode isn't going to, rectify or work with these emotions. This is just a bit parade that we're sitting down and watching. And it's, it isn't, I don't know, with this episode's, this isn't really like, it's not really satire. It's kind of like criticism, like comedy as a form of like.
There's a few things. So like, this is a very clear reference to the Janet Jackson Justin Timberlake incident at the Super Bowl halftime show, because I think this was this year, maybe it was the year after that happened, where she showed her nipple or whatever, and everyone got mad, and Family Guy.
Justin Timberlake ripped off her top of her shirt.
Yeah. Which also, as a complete aside, like, people have gotten really mad at JT about that for, like, not standing up for her or whatever. And, like, I don't give a fuck about Justin Timberlake. Like, be mad at him, be not. But when you look into it, it's very funny because, like, a large part of the reason her career went down the tubes is not because of public outcry. It's because Les Moonves, the head of CBS, had some sort of personal vendetta against her and just used all of the quote-unquote outrage as an excuse to stop booking her and to blacklist her from the industry. And so when you look at stuff like that about, like, how often, like, entire cultural moments are just like one guy's being petty, one guy in charge and having... I mean, we're filming this the day after The Late Show, Stephen Colbert's show, but that entire franchise ended forever. Right. Also a CBS property. And, like, that was because the guy who was in charge, it wants to be friends with Trump, Like, it's all because these traditions that have existed for years kind of fall apart. And interestingly, and maybe this is going too far ahead, but I think that's Family Guy's key to longevity. I mean, The Simpsons is still on the air because of nostalgia, because there's no reason, like, people would be sad if it was gone, even though they have really nothing to say anymore. South Park is still on the air because they've always been of the moment. They write their episodes in a week, like, so you can always have material. Family Guy is on the air because it doesn't believe in anything. So it can always, it's not of the moment, but it's also not of anything else. Right. So it can change itself. It can reference memes the same way it referenced 70s football players, because there's nothing actually inside of it. And so sometimes it's very fun in the way that you can hang out with your, like, violent, alcoholic, depressed friend who it cracks super dark jokes when he's drunk. But then if you do that for a week, you're like, this is exhausting me. Or like, listening to Come Town for once in your life and then watching, like, a Nick Mullen podcast appearance and you're like, I want to kill myself now. Like, the way that when there's no there, you actually can come up with something very interesting. But when asked to do it for years, you can survive, but will you thrive?
That's a good point. I like that. And then, like, even if you look at the politics of it, too, it's like they're able to make Brian sometimes have some, like, biting political take, and then Brian's singing and dancing with Rush Limbaugh. And, like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's also apolitical in an interesting way that it's kind of charming, where there was an Obama feeling of, like, well, let's come together. Whereas now in 2026, why would we come together? Like, we have completely different beliefs of how the country should function. What is this unity shit? Like, it doesn't actually play to an audience that's grown up in a different world. Like us. Like, we are adults. If we were adults when Family Guy was out, we'd be like, yeah, man, I'm Gen X. Like, fuck it all, man. Like, I don't give a fuck about anything. Like, we're all just trying our best. And now it's like, some of you are racist. Some of you
are exactly. Well, that's the thing. I mean, and I did a kind of similar project to this a long time ago. And one of the things that we talked about was how Family Guy, if it has any belief system, it is the very neoliberal 90s end of history philosophy that it's like everything is fine, even though now we know like all the stuff that is happening politically now and culturally, the seeds were there. I mean, it was present and obvious, but it's much easier for people to ignore it. But like that is kind of what it is. It's like we should be allowed to make whatever jokes we want because obviously it's fine and progress will be linear and stuff will happen. So like in the opening of PTV, Stewie is doing the Naked Gun thing where it's the POV of his trike, and then it's a bunch of different references. So it's like he's on Star Wars in a different planet. He's on the Yellow Brick Road from The Wizard of Oz.
He's in the Shining hallway.
He's in the Shining. But then there's also one moment that's in Quahog, so to speak, and it's just a gay pride parade. Like, that's not a reference to anything. It's just like a, haha, I'm running over gay people. And I don't think that Seth MacFarlane or their writers are genuinely homophobic in the way certain lawmakers are, because they even had an episode where Brian tried to like force gay marriage and stuff. And I think their belief system, so to speak, is in the right way. But they've been making gay jokes from the start and will. And I think that speaks to the overall ideology, which is like, I can make fun of anyone and it doesn't matter because like everything's okay. We're all going to be fine. Nothing will lead to anything bad. And it's okay. It's fine. Who cares what I say? My words don't mean anything.
Right. Isn't it interesting? Stewie runs over a gay pride parade, and he is a canonically gay character.
Yeah. Do you remember how, like, I don't know whether you went through the same thing, but there are like compilations online of people being like, is Stewie gay? Is he actually? Like, they would use like clips of him being gay on the show. But then there'd be like debates online of like, wait, but what does it mean? In the same way there was stuff like, does the family understand him? You know, like that would be a whole conversation. There'd be like, is he actually gay? Is he not? And now watching it, I think, obviously I'm older, but also just having more media literacy, it's like, it's a comedy. They're just making him say gay things, you know? Like, the joke is that he's gay, and like, his character isn't real. He's even less real than other animated characters. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Is he gay? I don't know, dude. He travels to different dimensions and murders. Like, I don't know. It's actually not even... And that's what's so funny, because you said end of history shit. It's like, we are debating if the cartoon baby is gay. Like, I understand the moment and these people who are completely disconnected from, like, any sort of political movement or project. Because they spent their youth debating if the baby is gay. Like, they didn't actually, well, everything's going to work out because, like, liberal democracy will just thrive. And it's like, I don't know if it really worked out for some people.
Sure, exactly. Yeah, in the same, 100%. And so I think similarly, this episode, now if we're talking politics, is interesting because it kind of presents what Seth MacFarlane's utopia is, you know? It's like PTV, the TV channel that Peter starts. I don't know how much we should like actually summarize, because I feel like this is a much more well-known show than Mulaney was. But to PTV, the television network that Peter starts because the FCC gets too big in their britches. It shows like what the Seth MacFarlane, because by this point also the PTC, the Parent Television Council, which is like a right-wing garbage Christian thing that is like worst show of the weekend. It's just like, usually it's just like, they showed two women holding hands. This is terrible. How am I going to explain this to their kids? But Family Guy was something that they were a constant critic of, as you may imagine, based off what their, stated aims were. And so that, I think, is another thing. And the FCC was always finding them. There was an interesting thing that I learned about through the commentary in the beginning of the episode when Lois is holding Peter's face to the carpet and is like, you like eating carpet or whatever? And they cut the Quagmire outside, overhearing and passing out. The original joke had him watering his lawn with a hose and then passing out, but then passing out in a way where the hose looked like a penis and like behind him. And the censors were like, you can't do that. That's terrible. And so they just... And so PTV is maybe like his response. It's like, this is what we could do, you know? This is what life could be. And it is very interesting because then it's like, it's just side boobs, you know? Like,
right.
But it's as disconnected from any kind of logic or reality that I think the best Family Guy episodes are. And the worst, but also the best, you know? And all of them, you know?
Yeah. I think that's really interesting that even the episode about censorship got censored. Yeah. It's very like there's little notes of it. Like Seth can sometimes be much more heavy-handed with his politics,
yes.
And so it's usually what I like is when he speaks through Brian, and Brian is such like a
it's supposed to be a douchebag. Yes,
and it's like this guy is annoying, and it's like a self-awareness that you can appreciate. But you know, it's just interesting that like there's just these like I don't know this belief that like. In the show, it's like, well, that should be for the parents. The parents should be watching their kids. And it's like, well, I hate to say this, but it's like anyone, like a lot of my family works in education. The parents don't even make sure the kids have lice out of their hair. Like some of them, like there's not a lot, like there's people who had kids because of the act of just going through life recklessly and just like, there's just, when the government steps in to make rules on behalf of people who are like without, like to protect someone on their behalf, and you believe that that's like your right, which happens a lot, and that's like a lot of like civil rights kind of arguments and different types of censorship. It is funny to believe that. It's like, well, it's up to the parents. It's like, okay, well, kids are watching this episode where you have Peter getting raped over the 16 candles scene, and I'm not, and I was, my mom did not let me watch Family Guy. I would have to sneak Family Guy in my room.
Okay, so this is really interesting because I think then you and I had the exact same experience where like I knew from the start it wasn't something my parents, because I knew that they were not like they were big on like restricting what I watched, and so I had to sneak it, and I was caught, and they got mad at me, and it was a whole thing. And
are you watching Family Guy?
Yep.
It's like thinking about it now is like.
It's so, but you know what? It's a very interesting conversation about censorship, especially where we stand now in terms of, you know, the discussion being like, should children have unrestricted internet access because of what it does to your brain and stuff? Yeah. And like, and so for me, personally, at least in terms of my relationship with my parents, I think they did come at it from a very wrong-handed angle because, look, like Family Guy, it showed me. It didn't scar me. It showed me that I was interested in comedy. It showed me what I wanted my life's pursuit to me. It gave me a purpose. It's crazy to say, but like it's true. Like it's part of like the origin story of my life. And I can only view that as a positive, you know? If it was taken from, and I don't think that having to watch it in secret actually did anything better for me.
No, it's like it's like weed when you're a kid. Like you actually, it's like, if you're at the cool parents' house and they're smoking with you, that's actually a bad thing. Like, you should sneak around and consume things in secret because that kind of makes it a little more special to you in a way. And I think that, like, Family Guy is such an interesting, like, kaleidoscope of culture where you'll see a joke and you're like, I remember being like, I don't even know who they're referencing. I don't know who David Hyde Pierce is. Like, I don't even know why that's funny.
Yeah, because I'm 5. Yeah. Yes. I'm not watching Frasier, you know?
Yes.
I'm a child. And so and interestingly, I do think that is like the way that I think one becomes kind of a pop culture omnivore is through the tertiary accounts that are shows specifically like Family Guy, but there are other ones that are like very reference heavy, like 30 Rock or Community or whatever. But Family Guy is very specifically referential and metatextual in a way that kind of introduces people to a lot of things, even though they don't realize what it is. Like famously in this same season, they have Shapoopy when Peter becomes a Patriots player. Which, how many people, when they watched it, knew that was a number from The Music Man? Probably none of them.
Right. And I was just watching, I just finished The Orville. I watched all of his...
Yeah.
I don't even, this is not his most recent show because Ted season 2 or whatever. But it was one of his more recent shows, and it's just, this guy is obsessed with musicals from, mid-century, 19th century America. Like, he's just obsessed with, like, The King and I and The Music Man, and, like, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer stop motion inspires a character to not forcibly transition his child. It's like, what? This guy, I recommend the Orville, but there's, like, it's got, like, a heightened thing that I don't know what else to say. Trump really heightened in people like Seth MacFarlane's politics, it seems, where they feel like, now I want to say something a little more, like, coherent, maybe. I don't know, but...
Right. No, but that's a good point in terms of speaking towards the person Seth MacFarlane is, because... Yes, like, his answer to whenever anyone was like, why is Family like this? Like, what's with the Conway Twitty? What's with the constant cutaways? His answer is like, well, we wanted to be like the old-timey variety shows where anything could happen. It was a musical guest, or they do a bunch of disconnected sketches, or they had like a long thing, like the Honeymooners started in like a variety show, and then they just took that and extended it. And that's his answer. And that is similar to the love of old-timey musicals and Frank Sinatra, in that it's this old, like, mid-20th century pageantry and pomp and circumstance and show business in the classic nostalgic sense of the word. But he is also, when Family Guy premieres, a 24-year-old, like, stoner, atheist shithead, right. Gen X liberal, And so then, of course, the show that he makes, the package surrounding it, but also he's able to sell because it's speaking to the tone and the general cultural tenor at the time, is doing all of that filtered through this nothing matters and we're all stupid and you're all dumb for caring about anything ideology.
Right. Which is interesting to then see his later shows, which, as you get older, you change. And I think he does start to care about things a little bit more. And it's easy at 24 to be, like, ambivalent about things. And then when you go through a couple relationships and have a couple of friends who have kids or things like, because I don't think Seth MacFarlane's a fascinating person. But if he had like a family and then like you saw Family Guy change, it would be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But it's like, it's very interesting to see he reminds me so much of Bill Maher sometimes. They're
good friends though. They are very good friends.
They make sense. They're in a conversation.
They're very good friends, and I think Seth and Rush Limbaugh were very good friends, which is how he got him for the show.
Which is crazy. Rush Limbaugh is a crazy pull to be friends with.
Yeah, I mean, you look at anything he said. It's not even like and this has been done to death, but it's not like I'm just a small government Republican. It's like he would read the names of AIDS victims and cheer their death. That's the guy he was.
I'm not paying for your abortion because you're a college slut.
Yeah.
Something he said. It's like, okay, you said called women sluts on the air. I mean, there's things that he got away with on the radio that, like, Howard Stern was like, can we have women have orgasms on the radio? And Rush Limbaugh was like, how much damage can I cause to the fabric of society? Anyway, we'll have to cover that one. I'm sure we'll do like a...
No, that one, maybe we do that one and the Trump episode in one episode.
Oh, God, the Trump episode's so bad. It's so bad. My episode, I'll just briefly go over my episode.
So then maybe, let's just, we don't need to, like, be super structured with this. Let's talk about Business Guy.
Is Business Guy. It's just a personal pick. I genuinely went to a couple websites to see what was listed as the top 10 episodes, and I didn't want to pick. I mean, no offense to PTV, because it's probably the best episode, or maybe like top 3 that I consider. But those lists always have like Lois kills Stewie kills and I'm like, I don't like that episode. Like, these are not really, and I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah, it's playing into a lore that I don't watch Family Guy for, Yeah, it's not like, the X-Files or Stranger Things. I don't care about, will they actually get to kill, like, that's not what this show is,
No. And I think that I Business Guy is an episode that I just always go, oh, I like that episode, and I was rewatching it because I remembered it. I like Carter a lot. I think Carter's a great character, and I think I like that they use him sparingly, because when he is in the show, I just think that they give him a lot of funny, weird stuff to do.
Yeah.
Like, basically the plot of this episode is Carter gets into a coma and Peter takes over Carter's company and ruins it. And so the whole thing is like Carter's trying to get his company back, and there's just gags where it's just basically Peter gets money, and let's see what Peter does with money.
And you know what's funny about that is like talking about the classic like 6 minute in first act shift narratively, because The Simpsons would do that too, but like they were always more coherent and cared more about the structure with it. This one is crazy because it's like, so clearly the idea is like, okay, Peter becomes this. Peter gets rich. Peter becomes the CEO of a business. How do we work backwards from there, right? And you look at how you work backwards. So Peter becomes the CEO of Carter's company. Does Carter give it to him? Because he's in a coma. Why does Carter get into a coma? Because at a strip club, he has a heart attack. Why is he at a strip club? Because Peter finds out he's never had a bachelor party, and so takes him to a strip club. Why does Peter find out that he's never had a bachelor party? Because they're on Carter's yacht, and Lois is seasick and throws up, and Peter says, I haven't seen that much vomit since my bachelor party. You think they're going to do a cutaway, but instead Carter goes, what is a bachelor party? This all happens within the first 2 minutes of the show. Yeah. And you're like, that's such a wild, like, they need, like, clearly neurodivergent, like attention deficit writers, because what type of, like, circuitous, insane logic it is to get to that simple goal, you know?
Yeah, and then there's like the end of Peter's in charge of the company. Carter wakes up from his coma. Peter hires Carter back as a janitor. Now the episode isn't just what if Peter's rich, it's what if Carter's poor. And then it's like basically finding a way to get Peter to sign the document to give it over, and they use like a swamp monster. Yeah, it's like, it just is very representative to me of the time when I'm sneaking in my bedroom trying to watch Family Guy. This episode aired December of 2009. I was 12.
Yeah.
This is like, I was like, let me find an episode that would have made me really fall in love with it. And I always remember this episode because of it is. Whereas PTV has like a little more of a plot going on where the FCC starts censoring real life and you see an escalation of the FCC. This one is just like, yeah, things happen and it's just bit, joke. 2 minutes into the episode, it's maybe one of the most racist bits I've ever seen Family Guy do.
The Caribbean,
with the guy in the Caribbean, where he's like, hey, why don't you come to the Bahamas and get raped? It's like, okay. Yeah. Like, and I actually was like, maybe I won't pick this one, but I was like, no, that is 2009.
That's why,
and that's what this show is. Like, this is like such an element of like the time period that it felt appropriate.
It's this exactly December 2009. Obama's first term. Everything's gonna be fine. By like mid 2010, everyone's like, yeah, the recession's over. Oh, everyone will have their jobs forever. You know, that's one of those things. And and there's also a weird thing where sometimes we've talked about this with other things, but sometimes racism will be so specific within comedy because I guess they need to, you know, be different for a joke to land, that you don't even know what the bit is necessarily, because in this same episode, after the Caribbean thing, they also have a part where Peter makes Carter compliment an Asian businessman.
Yes.
And a lot of the things...
What is
and a lot
that
of things I'm like, I don't. What is this a reference? Is this a reference to fucking Breakfast at Tiffany's? Like, what? Who? Like, it's almost at that. Those are the moments where it's like, it's hard to defend this as not racist and just like, no, they're being edgier racially, because it's like, and I'm not even saying this from a negative standpoint. It's like, you can laugh, but you have to admit it is racist, you know? Like, it's just one of those things where it's like, if you're not even playing on pre-existing stereotypes that everyone in the audience knows, you're like, oh, you've been sitting and stewing about this, you know?
Sure.
Like, and that show, it's like, so Drake just released 3 albums.
Yes, this is big for people from Toronto.
This is big for people from from Florida. Yeah, but I think, you know, wherever you want to be from.
All right.
But why did I bring this? Okay, the whole thing is him complaining about the Kendrick beef, right? Which is 2 years ago. Sure. And it's one of those things where he's just been thinking, you can tell, he can't do the thing of it's like, yo, you want me to talk about it? And it's like, but you've been stewing about this for 2 years. So when someone does something like that, it's like, man, this is just a funny, harmless joke about, like, you know, poking fun at each other's differences. I'm like, I didn't know that was a difference. I didn't know that was a difference we had.
Right.
But you've been, like, analyzing it and writing it in your little journal.
Yeah, it's like when someone... Yeah, it's like when someone says something and you're like... I don't even know how to describe this, but I just remember one time I was hanging out with someone and a group of friends, and we were all drinking, and someone said something, like an insult to someone else, that was so, like, out there and so specific that it was like, okay... what was that? Like, that didn't even have anything to. It's like when someone's like lightly jabbing you, and then you come in with a nuclear weapon. It's like, well, that's a lot, dude. You clearly have been like, you've
been sitting on that.
Yes, like,
exactly.
This is
and it speaks worst of you most of the time.
Yeah, because like the Caribbean thing is like, is there a general sentiment among Americans that they're afraid to go to the Bahamas because they're going to get raped? I've never heard that. Was that a thing in 2009? Maybe. I don't know. Americans love cruises and they love going to the Caribbean.
Yeah.
So I don't.
And nobody ever leaves the resort, so it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think.
I think there's something.
Yeah. You go ahead.
Well, so okay, very small thing, and maybe this we can. You have a thing about this. Is so the video will bit where Carter is just listing different ways to die. That's a joke. Like that's a sketch. That's a Dana Carvey sketch where he's Tom Brokaw and he's talking about different ways. Gerald Ford could have died recording that. Yeah. And there's an interesting thing where Family Guy, similar to the Shapoopy thing, similar to other things, where they will reference stuff knowing they're referencing it. But then sometimes they'll reference stuff and I'll go, was your intent to get this past the audience and make it seem like you just came up with it yourself? Mm-hmm. Because I've seen so often like people finding a thing that they're referencing online, like a YouTube video of the original thing, and the whole thing being like, is Family Guy not original at all? Like, they all thought, like, oh, this is a thing they just wrote and made for them rather than... And you could argue that is a lack of media literacy on the audience's part, but sometimes at a certain point as writers, you have to know, like, we're being a bit obscure, but also we are getting a laugh from it, and how earned is that laugh if it's not ours?
If it's not a shared reference, it's just like the racism thing. Like when someone's doing a racist joke about a stereotype that you don't know about, it's like, well, do you just feel this way and you're trying to play it off in this way, or are you stealing a bit? And it's it's the past, and we can rectify that however you do it. But there are a lot of moments in Family Guy where it's like even like in this episode, Carter's doctor is Dr. House.
Yes,
and it's like,
it's actually Hugh Laurie voicing it.
Yeah, he's the guest star of the week.
Yeah, which, like, I guess, I mean, they were both Fox shows, so maybe is a tie-in they were trying to promote, but also, like, what Family Guy viewer is like, oh, I gotta check out House,
Right. It plays so much in, like, the early nebula of the way that memes and references as a humor source that it's hard to tell what's a reference that we're going to get, what is them maybe like osmosisly just taking a form of a joke and putting it in, because the show has so many episodes, so many bits in every episode, and it's almost like untreaded territory to where they could get away with things like what you're talking about. Like, did you know that? Am I supposed to understand this, or is this something? Or is it just random? Like, you're watching iCarly. iCarly isn't referencing some esoteric novel from the '60s. It's random because there's pickles in the bathtub or something. And that's kind of about how like things have gotten more disconnected, where it's like randomness without reference versus Family Guy's like the randomness of the reference. You're laughing because you're like, oh, I haven't thought about The King and I in years. What the hell? I haven't thought about Dr. House is on the show. That's random. But I know who Dr. House is because I love Fox shows. And it's like, it plays in that. And I think that as it goes on, that becomes a little bit, I mean, by the fact, it's like the same thing late night talk show hosts go through, where comedy, what are you going to do? You're going to write a monologue that's better than the bits that are on Twitter? Obviously not Twitter now. They actually probably do better now. But like back in the day when like half of people that became comedians and are now internet personalities were just typing away every time something happened, trying to get the best bit, it grew into something that I think, I don't know. This is an interesting moment for television and the way that humor has evolved with memes. And memes are sort of like memetics and like the idea of like the way that you understand a reference. I mean, they had to have been thinking about these things, but just maybe not as well.
Well, I think you're right, but I also think that part of the reason Family Guy survived, even amongst the young people even younger than us, is because they were always kind of meme-based, even if we didn't know that that's what it was at the time. And the way that just content consumption has evolved has made it so that Family Guy is actually really easy to break up into TikToks or Instagram Reels or like just image. I mean, think about how many just meme image macros come from Family Guy, you know? Just Family Guy alone. There's so many that's just like the little pictures because that's what they always were. Family Guy was always a meme, you know?
It's like a reference point.
Yeah.
On Twitter, I see all the time, every time Hassan Piker tweets, they put a picture of Brian in the outfit that he's wearing because they say that he is our Brian Griffin. Brian Griffin is a fictional character. He's not our Brian Griffin.
He's
Brian
not real.
Griffin is nobody's Brian Griffin.
Yeah. And I think kind of what it points to beyond that is in the way that I think I've certainly felt, and maybe you have as well, in that I know a lot of movies and TV shows and books and stuff, and I think that makes me smart. And beyond that, I think that knowing a lot of this stuff makes the work I do good and better than other people who don't know a lot of that stuff. And I think there is an undercurrent that gets a lot stronger and more explicit when we get later on into the show, but was present from the beginning and is evident here, where Family Guy kind of always was a bit peeved they were never thought of as like a critical heavyweight. Like they even in the thing people forget is it was a cult favorite certainly in the first few seasons when it was canceled and on the brink, but the critics never liked it. It was never a show people even like, and this was people who liked The Simpsons and who gave South Park its flowers and stuff. But people in charge. It's had like 3 Emmy nominations in 25 years. You know, like it was never a hit. And it's one thing if you're like, fuck that, who cares? Like, this is not for you, you know, like we know we're good, but they clearly do. And I think it's because they're aware of all of this pop culture and they do put stock into the pop culture, trademarks, you know, like in the same way Seth cares about like, the big old fashioned show business. He wants to be in that tradition, but he is just the way his creativity communicates itself, and I think just also just the level of writer he is has never been on par with those other shows, at least, you know, stylistically, certainly. We can argue qualitatively, but and I think it gets to him because, like, look, the Big Bang Theory joke, like in this episode, they're making fun of the Big Bang Theory, even though they actually got those same actors again. But it's like, yeah, man, like the stuff that people get shit on the Big Bang Theory for, like stereotypes about nerds and making references to like comic books. That's what Family Guy is. Like, what do you think you're doing?
I don't know, dude. It's just sometimes how it plays out. Sometimes, I guess, like there's the haves and the have-nots in everything, and it's like Family Guy just never had. It wasn't a critical darling. It's a show of the people, and that is, in my opinion, the better play.
Yeah,
people love this show. I don't see TikToks with clips of Simpsons or South Park
because it's
Family
much more
Guy
difficult.
Is infinite. It's infinite.
Yeah.
And I think what you just said is an amazing point. And it's so funny because I host trivia nights, and I've made a term which is trivia night guy. It's a guy that comes to my trivia nights and believes he is smart because he knows about Star Wars, Transformers. He knows about Beyonce albums. His cultural knowledge is a very wide spectrum. But this guy couldn't build a rocket or the practical knowledge that you require to do any of these jobs is very high, and a lot of these people don't have any. I mean, most of us, it's like, as this is so like bigger than the stupid Family Guy podcast, but like as we have evolved to be like highly intelligent beings with nothing to do, all we do is obsess over our cultural artistic artifacts, and so we just become very well versed in knowing who hosted this episode of SNL, why this thing happened on The Tonight Show. And we know not only these guys like you and me, not only will we know all the references because of a show like Family Guy, but then you start to be like, well, actually, I know a little bit about the behind the scenes. I actually know about history, too, because
He's always bored.
And it's like, this is actually like the real PSYOP, if you're going to talk about, because it is like if it all works out for me and you, and we end up doing this stuff professionally, which who knows, we're working towards it. Like we'll have it been worth it. But if we're 65 years old and we're sitting on our laurels, and all we do is know so much about Star Trek, it's like, what was my life?
What were we doing? Well, that's the exact thing. It's like, to your point, like, certainly, cannot build a functional rocket, but then even the step below of, it can just help you artistically, like from a purely creative standpoint, is knowing all of this stuff, help you write a funny joke, help you write a good script, help you act well. Maybe not. It's not a one-to-one, As so many episodes of Family Guy can show you, knowing a bunch of references doesn't mean you can make good comedic television.
And how many times, we're both comics, how many times do you see a comic and you're sitting back, this is very niche, but I know the reference, and I think you're clever, but no,
it's not a joke. Yeah.
They don't know the reference. You're relying on people's ability to know something, and if they don't, now you're explaining a reference to people on stage. There's nothing worse than a comedian explaining the plot to, I don't know, Pluto Nash to it's like, why are we sitting here? Like, what are you referencing? Like, and it is like, the comedian now is almost someone, if you're not revealing personal information or criticizing something, you have to only play within the spectrum of what 90% of people know about. And because there's so many niches, I can't make jokes about K-pop or like a specific niche joke. Go to Twitter to your subculture. Go to Tumblr if that was still a thing, and you'll get humor about those things. But I think a little bit sometimes when it feels like someone who's a really popular comedian and you're watching them, or a really popular show, it's like, this is a little dull. It's like, well, because they have no idea what the frame of reference for the general population is. We're not all watching TV. So when we all watched the TV, we all knew. I don't know if it was your episode. It was your episode. Ends with a Brady Bunch bit. It's like it's like we all know the shows because we all grew up on the same channels, the same things that's fed to us, and it was all singular. These are the musicians. These are the books. This is the government. This is what we watch. Now, Lord, no, there's people who believe in lizard people and the earth is flat. And it's like, how do you appeal to these people? Like, how do you appeal to everyone? And you can't, because not everyone shares the same frame of reference. And I think Family Guy runs into that a little bit too, which is why even like on the Orville, which is a show that ended like 4 years ago, it's a lot of references to our time and our past. They'll reference things that happened in like the 50s and 60s. And it's like, this show takes place 500 years in the future. Yet a lot of the things that end up happening are talking about the media that I wasn't even alive for. So I just think, it's so fascinating. And that's why it's interesting to do a show about Family Guy, because it is such a thing of like the way that media evolved and the way that it's like what is a Rosetta Stone?
Yeah. It's our favorite phrase of this show.
But dude. I think I don't have much more to say. I think that this was pretty
it's very interesting, and I think I think the fundamental thing that is interesting to me about the show is it's like, it is almost like a Greek tragedy in terms of like someone's fatal flaw is also the backbone of their spine in the way that they will always, it's unavoidable. They wouldn't have been them if they didn't also fail, And it's interesting because they never got what they wanted. They never got to be, they clearly have a clear contempt for the audience, but they're going to live forever, They're immortal in this world that loves them, but not in the way that they want. And it exists in this just such a strange space where they want to make references, but they can't. But then it's almost a tick, so then they have to reference memes, and then you're like, you're already a meme, don't do that, that's weird, And it's just confusing for everyone. And you can tell that there's like, they're just trapped, but and they want to like expand, but they can't. And so it's in some ways comforting to go back to 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and see what they were and what it was to us. But I also think like the seeds were there. We knew what was always going to happen. Sure. It was always going to fall off, which is why it is the most 90s show. If you were there at the time and you thought about it, you knew this wasn't going to last. You knew this wasn't the end of history. You knew more shit was going to happen. But it was very easy to pretend it wasn't. You just couldn't tell when you're in it.
Yeah, you never know. That's man. You're right. You're really right. And when I think about Family Guy and then all the things that led to Family Guy and the things that like kept going, I think you start to see shows change in good ways. Like I referenced Rick and Morty, or something like Smiling Friends. Like Smiling Friends is like, we're just going to end and not come back, and you're going to have the show that you have. Like that is born out of The Simpsons being on for 50 seasons. That is like, we're not going to become something else. And Family Guy too. And then you see something like Rick and Morty, where it's like, Rick and Morty, I think, does a good job of, they walked into the trap that Family Guy avoided, but Rick and Morty started doing, our show is actually, there's a big arc across the season. Yeah. Now you watch it and it's like every episode, it's like sometimes it'll have an emotional little moment, but it's really nothing. Like it's just come in, watch the show. But yeah, dude, I mean, this show is awesome, and yeah, you're right. It is, it's very of its time, and it's a very interesting thing to look back on with hindsight.
Yeah, and stay tuned for next week's episode. I don't know what that's going to be.
That's how we're doing it, by the way. We'll speak explicitly if anyone's interested in listening to this. We're not, last show we did was all about the sitcom Mulaney, and it was like, we're going to go through every episode of Mulaney and talk about why this show sucks. But we are approaching this one a little differently, just because it's more of like, let's just talk about something that we like, and Seth MacFarlane is kind of a central figure to that. And
we're not going to watch every episode of Family Guy.
Yeah, and every episode isn't going to be a season. It's not going to be like that. Yeah. Because I think nobody wants that. Because what are we going to talk about? There's no plot points to talk about. Yeah. It's like, so, we'll see what we get into.
Yeah. Peace.